It's a marble masterpiece, one of the most famous buildings in the world. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is simply an impossibility, more like something you dream than something that can exist. For hundreds of years, the world has watched in amazement as the building defies gravity, teetering on a razor's edge.
It really is quite miraculous that it has not fallen over, and thank goodness it hasn't.
If the tower were to fall, no one would feel it more than the people of Pisa. For them, the tower is the heart of their city. It is what draws hundreds of thousands of tourists every year, each one anxious to give a helping hand. It really needs one. The Leaning Tower of Pisa can tumble in an instant. For 800 years, architects and engineers have been trying to fix the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Nearly every attempt has been disastrous, but somehow the tower has serenely survived. Today, the tower is in greater danger than ever. Its lean is so extreme that the Italian government has closed it to avoid a potential disaster. It's been more than 10 years since anyone has walked up its marble stairway, which leads to its stunning bell chamber. Until now. We will take a behind-the-scenes look inside the tower that's been locked off to the public for so long and climb to the top for a rare view of its breathtaking vistas. We'll examine the bizarre history of the 800-year effort to save the tower and introduce the current plan that some believe just may make the tower safe forever. That is, if it doesn't destroy it first. Today, the tower is in crisis, a patient in intensive care. 830 tons of lead have been added to hold down its north side. Steel bands cinch its waist. 340-foot-long cables are wrapped around it to prevent an impending catastrophe, while a group of international experts struggle to find a permanent solution. Michele Jamiolkowski, a geotechnical engineer, is the chairman of the current team to save the tower.
This is not an easy task. Not only me, but also other members of the committee became acquainted with the responsibility and with the risk which we are carrying with this task.
Their goal is to reduce the tower's lean by about 16 inches. This would take the tower out of danger, but keep it looking the same. After all, no one wants a straight Tower of Pisa.
We never considered straightening the tower because the inclination is part of its character. It's absolutely central to Pisa. So there are two unacceptable scenarios, really, aren't there? One would be a straight tower, but the other one would be one that fell over.
The common perception is that the tower is in danger of tipping over. In fact, that is only one of two perils that could reduce it to rubble.
One problem is the very well-known continuous increase of inclination, which was bringing the tower to falling over. And the second problem was the concern about the structural collapse.
The first problem, the tower's increasing slant, is due to the soft soil it is built on. Professor Carlo Vigiani is a member of the committee to save the tower. He has been studying the tower for over 35 years.
The leaning was by chance, probably because on the south side of the tower, the subsoil was weaker than the north side. And once it started to lean from that side, then the weight is going on that side, and the thing is continuously increasing.
By 1990, the tower was leaning at an astounding 5.5 degrees, or 17 feet off the perpendicular. It literally defies the laws of physics. Committee member John Berlin is a professor of soil mechanics.
I think it's miraculous. I mean, when we came here in 1990, we couldn't get it to stand up on our computer. It's leaning at 5.5 degrees. We could only get our computer tower to lean at 5.44 degrees, and then it used to fall over. So it really is quite miraculous that it has not fallen over.
The tower isn't just in danger of falling, it can collapse under its own weight. Part of the problem stems from its structure. Although the tower appears solid, it's actually a hollow cylinder reaching 185 feet into the sky. Within it, a staircase winds up to the top. Most of its 14,000 tons are supported by its walls. Its walls, however, aren't solid either. They're stone, lime, and mortar, covered with a thin marble facade.
One side, with all of the stone, is getting a lot of pressure. The other side, with all of its stone, is not getting that pressure, so there is an inequality.
As the tower's lean continues, the pressure intensifies. Eventually, the marble in this second floor section will give way, and the building will collapse upon itself.
Could explode at any time, or this was the case in 1990 anyway. So we've got a tower that's just about to fall over and it's on the point of exploding, and that makes it probably the biggest civil engineering challenge there is.
Solving the challenge of the tower has stumped generations of engineers. Its problems began almost as soon as it was built. When plans for the tower were first drawn up in the 12th century, a spot was chosen with a commanding view of Pisa. It was beautiful, but not a very good place to build, since in ancient Italy, the site had been a lagoon. Piero Perotti is an art historian and professor of medieval architecture at the University of Pisa.
Pisa was a system of islands in the middle of a very wide lagoon. This lagoon was slowly filled in by the two most important Tuscan rivers, the Arno and the Auser. And where the rivers had filled in, they left mud, which is softer and wet.
The soft, wet soil left behind by the rivers was where the tower was built.
The ground is so soft that it's really like building a brick tower on a soft carpet. You can go to a certain height, and no matter how straight you try and keep that tower, it'll start to lean and then fall over.
Why build a tower doomed to lean? Although the medieval architects knew that the soil was soft, they may not have known how soft. They thought they had found the perfect spot to build a monument to the glory of Pisa. Today, Pisa is a quiet university town of 100,000. In the 11th century, it was a powerful city-state. Its navy roved the seas, conquering other cities. In 1062, the Pisan navy sailed to Palermo, the capital of Sicily, bent on conquest.
When Pisa's fleet arrived in Palermo, the Sicilians they encountered there said that the citizens of Pisa were the meanest and most ignorant people they had ever met. In reality, there was this strong arrogance of considering themselves the first, the best. This arrogance made it easy for other cities to find allies against Pisa.
In 1063, the victorious Pisan navy returned, their chests bursting with pride and their pockets bursting with Sicilian money. They decided to build a glorious square, the religious center of medieval Pisa, the square known today as the Piazza dei Miracoli, Square of Miracles. It would have a magnificent cathedral, one that would surpass any other church in Italy. Next to it would be a baptistry, where Pisa's richest citizens could be baptized. Its crowning glory, the masterpiece of Pisan civilization, would be the cathedral's bell tower, or campanile. On August 9th, 1173, the foundation for the tower was laid, directed it is thought by Pisan architect Bonanno Pisano. By the time the third level was built, the tower was starting to settle unevenly. It was leaning north, not south as it does today. The Italians weren't worried. Many buildings in Pisa leaned a little. They simply compensated by making the columns and arches on the north side of the third level a little taller.
Pisa had something like 10,000 towers. It was known that an adjustment of the ground was necessary. They would start construction and they would look onto which side the tower was leaning and would build up the other side.
They didn't have the technology which we have now. If we were doing the tower now, we would have driven what are called piles down onto that dense sand 40 meters down. But they didn't have that technology in 1173. They just learnt that you could build towers to a certain height from years and centuries of experience.
But what they had learned from experience did not hold true for this tower. The soil here was softer, and the tower would have fallen if they continued building. But they didn't. In 1178, construction stopped. Some historians say it was because the tower was tilting too much. Others say it was political and military troubles in Pisa. Whatever the reason, the delay lasted 100 years.
The tower survived only because the interruption allowed the soil beneath the tower to settle, to improve the resistance, and to support the final lot of the tower.
When work resumed in the 13th century, the tower was leaning about 7 inches to the north. As building continued upwards, the tower began to tilt in the opposite direction. This time, the masons tried to correct the tilt by making the stones on the south side taller.
They corrected the shape just to bring the tower in a vertical position so that the tower is not actually straight. It is like a banana. It is shaped in this way.
In 1278, work on the tower stopped just short of the final floor. 82 years passed before architect Tommaso Andrea de Pisa came on to build the bell chamber. By 1370, the tower was complete, and the original vision of the great square with its tower was realized. But as soon as the tower reached its full height, the lean started to accelerate.
They didn't realize that by putting the little bell chamber on top, it was really going to start moving. They didn't have that understanding at that time.
It was thought at the time that the bell chamber would stabilize the tower.
The bell chamber is designed to correct the problem, to balance out the whole pre-existing structure.
The 14th century solution was to build a different number of steps on each side of the bell chamber. On the north side were 4 steps, on the south 6. In total, the south side ended up being 34 inches higher than the north. To further balance the weight, larger bells were placed on the north side. Finally, Pisa's cathedral had its tower, and the tower had its voice.